Best and worst. Let's jump in. Set the scene. Rainy morning in Lake Forest and much of the Chicago area, and the Bears opted to practice inside. Wasn't completely surprised. I think if this has been a full padded, longer practice, I think they would have practiced in the rain, but because they were coming off an off day, and it's always sort of a lighter practice, no pads, coming off an off day, it made sense to go inside today. So that didn't necessarily surprise me. So we were inside. It was a little shorter practice, no pads, no fans, just to set the scene. But it was still important that the Bears correct their issues operationally from Saturday. We talked about it on Saturday's show, all the mistakes, all the penalties, all the false starts. So my best from today's practice was that a lot of that was cleaned up. Was it a great execution practice from the offense? We can get into that a little bit. But when it comes to the operation, getting in and out of the huddle, the cadences, not having pre-snap penalties, it was much, much better. Today, Shane Waldron lauded his guys for, taking that into the day off and working on it and coming back. We got to watch from our vantage point. When they're inside the Walter Payton Center, we get kind of like a balcony view a little bit to look over the field. And the offensive line was like kind of right below us as they were going through their individual drills. And you could tell the coaches were throwing different cadences at them, at the offensive linemen, and they were working through it. Like, they were not always right. They were sometimes jumping a little early, but you could tell that they were really made this an effort to drill that home after what we saw over the weekend. And overall, for them to take that to team periods as a unit and clean that up, that was my best of the day. My worst, Carm's guy, Velus Jones Jr.
Ooh.
Got to catch the ball, man. He had one throw from Caleb that was not perfect, but in my opinion, catchable in the end zone. They did a lot of low red zone stuff today. And then the second one was just a blatant drop that turned into an interception. Who was that again that intercepted? That one was 21. Jalen Jones had the interception after a straight-up drop touchdown by Velus Jones Jr. So for a guy who I don't think is necessarily on the bubble, because I think his kick return ability will keep him on this team with the new rule. But, man, if you're keeping him around, you want to find a way to use him on offense, and you can't be dropping wide-open touchdowns. So that was my worst.
Yeah, and listen, I've been jumping on the Velus train, and today was a day you wanted to jump off. The interception, the second one, the ball was thrown perfectly with not a lot on it, and I really don't know how he dropped it, but it popped straight up out of his hands. And Jalen with the interception, that was rough. And then the rest of the practice wasn't much better. The dude's been, in my mind, has been having a great training camp, but he was not great today. Nick, what do you got?
Yeah, we'll start with my best, you guys. I have to go with Caleb Williams' touchdown throw to Rome Odunze in the back left corner of the end zone. I was charting everything that Rome Odunze was doing throughout the practice. I didn't even see him where he lined up on the play until he breaks open, and Caleb puts this ball in a spot where only Rome can catch it, because two defenders literally sandwiched Rome Odunze right when he caught the football. So the ball was thrown perfectly. Rome was able to catch the ball in traffic. So it was just a really good overall play from the two, top 10 picks right there. So nice connection there. My worst, you guys, and I think, a little bit before the practice, I was talking about Montez Sweat, but also Darnell Wright. Like, at this point in camp, and the Bears were not in full pads, but Darnell Wright cannot block Montez Sweat. It's just not happening. I mean, Montez Sweat has to let up now because he's like he can't touch the quarterback. He can't do that, but he is getting back into the backfield at such a fast rate that you're just wondering, like, where's Darnell Wright attempting to block this guy? I get it. Montez Sweat's going to be a really good pass rusher for this Bears team, but we just need to see a little bit more resistance from Darnell Wright, especially when the pads come on. So my worst right now is just how Darnell Wright has faced against Montez Sweat. When maybe pads get back on, we'll see it'll become a little bit better. But as of right now, it's all Montez Sweat all day.
See, I've had too much of my focus on the receivers and the quarterback, so I got to start watching the interior line more. But once you pointed that out today, Nick, It was, I mean, like you nailed it. Montez Sweat basically just walked himself to the quarterback. It's like, all right, fine, I'll stop. I won't hit you, Caleb, but I could if I wanted to.
There was one of those moments where like I thought we were gonna have another Montez gets kicked out of a drill moment because he was there to swipe the football out, and he, to his credit, again making corrections from Saturday, just like the cadence stuff. He was like, oh, I wanted to get that football so bad. That's a tough thing, man. When you're drilling this, get ball all the time, and you're like, but don't do it, when you might kill the quarterback. That's a tough thing.
Yeah, don't actually get the ball. All right, let me jump into my best and worst. You know what? I'm going to shout out my guy. I believe he wears number 17. He's the backup quarterback. And I thought he was having a lovely day despite Hoge's look on his face right now, which I don't exactly know why. But there was a sweet quarterback draw from Bajent today where he just waltzed into the end zone, put the hands up a la Bajent. And it was, Hoge can want to leave the podcast all he wants. But it was a great moment in the day. I enjoyed it. The Bajent QB draw. That's right, Hoge. That's right. There was a lot of Caleb had a great throw to Keenan. Caleb had he had a great throw to Rome, but that's just old hat, I mean, and yeah, Bajent on the move is kind of old hat too. But I'm going to shout out my guy, and then my worst. I spent the first 15 minutes of practice looking for Nate Davis. Where is 64? Is he back after the Flus called him out in his press conference on Saturday saying, talking all about availability, and they're moving Ryan Bates over to guard, and which puts Coleman Shelton at center. And I watched Flus during warm-ups. Now, this means nothing, but he spent like a bunch of time with Coleman Shelton as they were stretching, and they were just him and Coleman Shelton were having a long talk. Who could have been about what they had for lunch, but I don't know. The Nate Davis thing. If he misses a week right now, it almost takes him out of the equation because you can't not have Shelton working with the center while he's out. So it's going to turn into, who do you want to play, Bates or Davis? And you're going to play Bates. And Davis is going to be getting $10 million to sit on the bench if he doesn't get back on the field fairly quick. So I was hoping I would see him on the field today, and I couldn't find him. And he obviously wasn't practicing, so that ain't great.
No, the availability thing for him, like it's still training camp, but you just need to see him out there. Like Eberflus is a practice guy. Like you got to practice to play, and for Nate Davis, it's starting now. He was on a nice little like track record too for like consistent practices, and then he's kind of reverting to the old Nate Davis.
Well, yeah, until the pads went on, and then something popped up right away, And again, I think it's important to point out what Matt Eberflus said. Availability is everything in this league. You've got to be able to practice, and you've got to be able to go through hard in terms of doing hard better during training camp. That's all part of preparing for the first part of the season, being able to do that, to callous yourself. That's your individual responsibility to the football team. And when you're not out there, guess what? That doesn't happen. Availability is important at every position. Sometimes guys get injured. That's the way it goes, but they have to get back as fast as possible. To me, there's a lot of competition on this roster. And that was in context to a question about Nate Davis.
Yeah, he didn't hold back. I clearly the Flus has taken the gloves off as far as the way I heard that last year in training camp. It's fine. Guys missing time. They got to get them 100%, get them work. Yeah, no, we're seeing, I think, more of the real Flus and the urgency that the Bears feel to start out the season a whole lot better than they did last year. And so, no, am I going too far?
No, and I don't like that it's July 29th. And I'll just speak for myself right now. I don't like how uneasy I feel about the interior of this offensive line. Mm-hmm. When it was such a glaring issue last year, when you had this mission all offseason to do everything you can to insulate Caleb Williams, your new quarterback. You got him all the weapons, yes. But, for July 29th to be like, we're still talking about Nate Davis availability and what it looks like when he's not out there. And this is why I keep coming back to, like, at this point, I don't care if Ryan Bates is playing center or he's playing guard. he better be good. Like, for the sake of Caleb Williams, because this was like the big move. This was the big move of the offseason that Ryan Poles pulled off, trading a 5th-round pick for him. And I don't know how you can't be nervous. And now the good news, you still have time. You still have time to add guys, and you can still pull off a trade at some point. But for every day that goes by, we had Caleb Williams talk about how they're at the end of install period right now. Mm-hmm. So you're going to bring in another center. You're going to bring in another guard. They're going to need time to get up to speed with everything that you're doing here. The cadence issues we're talking about, you got to learn all that stuff. So it's got me. There's a lot of good things about this offseason. A lot of great things that Ryan Poles has obviously done here. The overall arrow is pointed pretty much straight up. But we're talking about protecting Caleb Williams. We're talking about giving him time to throw and process what he's looking at and make the correct decisions. And it all starts up front. And I'm nervous right now.
We all silly like the mayor.